Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever had an experience where you know without a shadow of a doubt that you are only here by God's grace and the miracle that He performed in your life? Maybe, just maybe, you were at a stoplight, and as you were sitting there at the stoplight, the light changed from red to green. But you didn't move. You did not budge. There was something that caused you to pause. And it was within that pause that a driver ran a stoplight. And if you would have pressed down on that accelerator, you would not be here today. You know, I'm reminded of a story of a young man who lived in San Francisco. Now, this young man was going through some things. He was a little distraught and he was a little depressed. And he went to the Golden State Bridge and he said to himself, if someone will just acknowledge that I exist, if someone will just acknowledge my presence, then these suicidal thoughts that have been haunting me in my mind, I will not act upon them. But sure enough, his presence was never acknowledged. So he climbed on top of the rail of that bridge. He lowered himself. And at that moment that he let go, he knew that he made a mistake. You see, there have been many people that went to this same bridge to jump to their death. Many of those who jumped did not live, they died. But this young man lived by God's grace. And now he lives the rest of his life going around the nation speaking to people who are suicidal, speaking to individuals who are down and depressed and want to give up on life. Listen, family. At the age of 15, I was sitting on a couch of a YMCA, the Young Men's Christian Association. You see, my sister and I, we went to take piano lessons. See, I've always wanted to be a part of the music industry. I wanted my name in lights. I wanted people screaming my name. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted people chasing me like stalkers. That's what I wanted. I wanted to be a huge music mogul. So our parents allowed us to take piano lessons at this YMCA. But as we sat and waited on them to come pick us up after our lesson, something hit me. A stray bullet came through the window of that YMCA. It didn't hit me in my hand. It did not hit me in my arms. It did not hit me in my legs, but the bullet hit me in my head and it penetrated my skull. That night, October 27th, 1993, as I laid in the arms of an unknown man, my life was going away in his arms. I was dying to my death. And if it had not been for God's grace, if it had not been for the prayers of those who love me, my family and my friends, if it had not been the prayers of the community, they would not have held me and brought me back to life. If it had not been for the hands of the medical technicians, I would not be here today. I can only imagine what my family had to go through, what my parents had to go through. But I can also imagine how they felt when they told them, listen, we have a heartbeat. He's breathing again. We have him back. But also, I can also imagine how short-lived that happiness was when they told them and gave them the unfortunate information and news that we have him breathing. But Mr. and Mrs. Jordan, I must warn you that his vital signs are not looking good. And it's a good chance that if he lives, he will live blind for the rest of his life. And then to add insult to injury, they come back to them and say, Mr. and Mrs. Jordan, we have to tell you something else. So where the bullet entered, his brain is severely scarred. And if he lives on, it's a good chance that he will live in a vegetative state, mentally, brain dead for the rest of his life. You see, I had to learn how to walk again. Yeah, I had to learn how to walk again. And all of the bodily functions that we all have and we can use without thinking would all be lost to me. You know, I think about that day often. I think about it all the time. But I also think about what's going on now. You see, there are people all around the world that are proclaiming and they're chanting, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. And you know what? They're right. Black lives do matter. They do matter. But that's what I want to talk to you about today. Because not only do Black lives matter, but your life matter. And I want you to live your life like it matters. Because every day that we're given is not promised to us to the end of the day. Listen, when that happened to me, from that time to now, my life have taken on a whole new meaning. A whole new meaning. You see, before my shooting, there were things that used to irritate me and upset me and make me angry. Used to upset me so much. Have you ever had an illness? An illness or a close call of some sort, or something happened to you that shifted your perspective, that changed your thought process? Yes, that's what I want to talk to you about. Something that changed your life, something that happened that changed your life and shifted your perspective. You see, there was a woman in the West Coast. And this woman in the West Coast, she lost her son. Her son was killed in a car accident. Her son was killed by a drunk driver. And instead of allowing that pain and allowing that hurt to take over her life and control her life, she turned that adversity into an ally, and she created a movement called Women Against Drunk Driving. And it was within that movement where she became a community activist. And she was able to get legislation passed in her area as well across the country to produce efforts and produce an opportunity to stop people from being killed on highways that were caused by drivers that were intoxicated. The whole movement changed the whole trajectory of her life. And you know what? There are some of you that are here today. I know it. I feel it in my knower. I feel it in my soul that you know not only that our lives matter, but you know that you are here for a reason. You know, I can't chalk it up. I just can't chalk it up to medicine and medication and therapy of why I'm standing here before you. I can't do that. I can't chalk it up to that, but I'm chalking it up to the fact that I am here for a reason. How many of you believe that you exist now in this day of age, in this time, because there's something that you're supposed to do, that you're here for a reason? They say, I don't need you to raise your hand. Don't raise your hand. I just need you to sit with that reason. I need you to meditate on what that reason is. You may not be able to pull it up right now. If you can't, I understand. It's okay, but please know that you're here for something. There's a reason why you're here. You know, when I think about that time where that bullet entered into my skull, the rehabilitation that I had to go through and endure, I know, I don't believe, but I know the fact that I can see you, the fact that I can converse with you, the fact that I can communicate, the fact that I can write songs as a songwriter, that I can sing as a recording artist, that I can produce music as a music producer, that I can write books as an author, the fact that I can do that and many other gifts that have been given to me that I can do, that shows that I'm not here for myself, but I'm here for you. I'm here for you and the rest of humanity. I know, being shot in the head, where the brain resides, there's not many people that get shot in the head and live to tell their story. There's not too many people that get shot in the head that can testify about their life. There's not too many people that can live on who's been shot in the head to make a greater impact. I know there's not too many people like me, and I don't take that lightly. What I do know is that life is a gift from God to us, but how we live that life is a gift to God. When I think about that time that just happened to me, and I think about my life now, and when I think and look towards my future, there's a man who got on a train and he fell asleep on that train. And as he fell asleep on the train, he awoke to sleeping passengers. And when he awoke to those passengers, he asked them several questions. He asked them, where have you been? He also asked them, who are you? Where are you going? And who's going with you? That's right. And I want to ask you the same question. Where have you been? Who are you? Where are you going? And who's going with you? You see, there are moments in life. There are moments where our lives are turned upside down. A divorce that you never saw coming. something happened to your child or someone that you love. The coronavirus. The coronavirus is not just the only strange thing that has happened to us and that we didn't see coming, but the coronavirus did happen to us. And because it happened to us, we have to cope with it. We have to live with it. We have to live with power. We have to stand firm on it. And we have to live our best life in spite of it. In spite of it. I want to talk to you about living in spite of your tragedies, living in spite of your setbacks, living in spite of your losses. I want to talk to you about, I want to talk to you from that place. I want to talk to you about living and seeing beyond sight, seeing beyond your circumstances. You see, I had to go through rehabilitation, and I need to be honest with you. The rehabilitation was not a cakewalk. It was difficult. It was hard. There was things that were introduced to me that I didn't even know about myself. I now understand when Paul said, I die to my death to my life daily. I die daily to my life. I die daily. I understand that because there was parts of me that died and still dying on a daily basis because I see life with different eyes. I see it totally different now. So I want you to see beyond sight, see beyond your circumstances and your issues. Because there's so much more that you need to see and that's available to you. So see beyond sight. The second thing I want you to do is I want you to live from your imagination. All right? Live from your imagination. You see, when I talk about sight, there was a time where that bullet took my sight away from me. It blinded me. But that bullet also gave me vision. Vision for my life. And because it gave me vision for my life, the doctor said that not only would I be blind, but I will live mentally challenged for the rest of my life. I will live in a vegetative state, will not be able to use my mind. But do you not know that I am one of the biggest persons who have the greatest imaginations in the world? So much so that I even wrote a book called Is It Just My Imagination? Utilizing your God-given imagination to accomplish your dreams and your goals. That's right. I imagined myself writing that book to impact the world. So live from your imagination. Albert Einstein said, he said, live from your imagination and not your history. You see, your imagination is the conduit. Your imagination is the gateway to becoming whoever you desire to become, to live the life that you desire to live. It is the gateway to allow you to do what you desire to do. And your history is only a reminder that you're an overcomer. It's a reminder that you're strong beyond measure. It is a reminder that you are set for greater. Your destiny is great. How do I know? I know because you're here today. So I want you to live out of that imagination. Don't just imagine whatever you think you want to become, then I want you to walk in it as if you're already there until it manifests in your life. And then, after you live from your imagination, I want you to make sure that you walk in your purpose. That's right. Walk in your purpose. We all go through ups. We all go through downs. The good, the bad, and the ugly, it will happen to us. But I'm also reminded of this analogy my father gave me years ago. He said, son, listen. He said, if I gave you this egg, would you eat it by itself? I said, no, Daddy, I will not eat it. He said, if I gave you this flour, would you eat this flour by itself? I said, no, I will not eat it. That's disgusting. What about this flavoring? If I told you to drink the whole bottle of this flavoring, would you do it? I said, no, Dad, that is disgusting. No. Why are you asking these questions? He said, because what happens is it's nasty to eat the egg by itself. It's disgusting to drink the flowering by itself. It's absurd to eat the flour by itself. But when you take all these various ingredients and you stick it in a bowl and you stir it around, you make the batter and you put it in a pan and you stick it into the oven is hot. That's life. Life will heat up on you. Life will get hot, put you in hot situations. But if you take all the nasty ingredients and you stick it all together and you put it into life, then when you pull it out, you have a beautiful cake. You have a tasty, fluffy cake, even with all those ugly, nasty ingredients. But when you pull it together, God said, the Bible says that all things work together for the good of those who love God and called according to his purpose. That's what I believe. I believe that. So when you pull that cake out with all those ingredients and you put the icing of purpose on it, what happens is you take that cake, you cut it up in pieces, and you can feed those who wants it and needs it and will enjoy it. That's what purpose does for you. So I want you to walk in your purpose. And then the next thing, I want to make sure, write this down, don't stop, don't give up. Yes, I was shot in the head. Yes, I was blind temporarily. Yes, they said I will be mentally challenged. Yes, that's what they told me. But you know what? God gave me a second chance and made all of that null and void in my life. And because of that, what I'm doing now, I'm not stopping. I never stopped chasing my dream. I went to become a music mogul. I went to become a music producer. I went to become a singer and a songwriter. I wanted to travel the world, and I'm able to do that. I have been able to do that with artists. I used to buy their products. I used to buy their albums. I just wanted to know them, and I've had the opportunity to do that because I never gave up. So what I'm saying, regardless of what you had to experience, never give up. Every setback is a setup for a comeback. Remember that. Never give up. And the last thing I want to make sure that you know is that we all have to leave this place one day. I had a conversation with a gentleman the other day, and I told him, I need to tell you something. We were talking about life. And I said, I'm going to tell you something. It may be a little bit morbid to you, but this is my truth. I live my day every single day with my funeral in mind. That's right. Because what I know is that that moment that I die and they have my funeral, there's going to be an open microphone that's going to be there, and people are going to get up and they're going to say things about Ternae Jordan Jr. So when they say those things, what would my daughter say if she's there? What would my wife say if she's there? What would my family say if she's there? What would people that like me, admire me, what would they hear when they talk about my life? My spiritual father, Mr. Les Brown, I know some of you know who he is. He's a great orator, great speaker. He always says to me, he said, live a life that outlives you. So when you die, what stories will be heard about you? When they hear about your trauma, when they hear about your struggles, how would they talk about you overcoming that you're triumphing over your trauma? How would they talk about that? Always live with the end in mind. You know what? I thank you so much for even allowing me to talk to you today. You know, it's been a plum pleasing pleasure to even stand here and give you the 5 bullet points that will help you triumph over trauma. Number 1, see beyond sight. That's right. Number two, live from your imagination, not your history. And number 3, I want you to walk in your purpose. Walk in it. Live in it. Believe in your purpose. Don't give up. And I'm going to tell you something. Things happen to you on purpose, for your purpose. Don't neglect or negate the bad things that happen to you. It happens for a reason. And then I want you to make sure that you don't stop. Don't quit. Keep pushing for what you want. Keep pushing for what you believe in. Never, ever give up. And the last thing, remember to live with your legacy in mind. Leave a legacy behind so that your memory, your story can live on forever. Thank you so much. I hope that I said something to encourage you today. I tell you, I am so encouraged just to stand before great people that will impact this world in a mighty way. Thank you so much.